Hey, one person. Look at that. Look at my new old timey, my old timey KFI mic. First, what do we what do we think of that? It's kind of a shame that it's out of the way. Let me. Still kind of out of the way, isn't it? Still out of the way. All right. Sorry, it was muted. Sure, looks good, but it works better as if it works as a mic. Um, yeah. So Gavin was on, and he announced he had a bunch of little housekeeping things, and that's calculated. The asshole will sit there and do his other business, and then say, "Oh, by the way, Orange County beaches are closed by special gubernatorial order," and the Orange County Sheriff's Department is not going to be enforcing that, but he came out and he did that because earlier in the week he said that he saw some disturbing pictures from Orange County, and they were just very disturbing pictures that disturbed him, and so he had to do something about those disturbing pictures, and so that he didn't get disturbed anymore. And then yesterday, I tweeted this out around 1:30 yesterday. OC Supervisor Don Wagner got on there. He Good Day LA, or I thought it was KTLA. Maybe I heard it wrong, but apparently it was Good Day LA. Was down there interviewing him, and the reporter just handed him the phone. So he gets on there with Gavin, and he says, "Hey, the Orange County order works for Orange County," and blah blah blah. Well, you can't do that to Gavin. This is, if you really want to see, what's the real effect of living in a one-party state, you just saw it. You saw it about an hour ago, that you have a guy with emergency powers because there's a pandemic. But now that we know a lot more, now that we have a lot more numbers about how, almost directional this virus is towards the old and the vulnerable, instead of loosening up some of the stay-at-home orders and doing something sensible like Orange County did, which was, okay, it's the heat wave. Homeland Security said this virus doesn't like heat and humidity. So go to the beach. Sorry, I mowed. I got on my riding mower, and I mowed about 4 acres, and I got shit all over my eyes. So instead of saying, keep a distance and the whole thing, and it all worked out fine. Lifeguards, Orange County lifeguards, Orange County Fire, everyone said that people maintained a decent social distance. But you saw a few photos in the LA Times taken, at a low angle with a telephoto lens. So the optical illusion was that you had people practically on top of each other. But that one photo that Gavin probably saw covered about 2 miles of beach. And it was from almost head level, telephoto. Really easy to replicate that photo. The LA Times today on their front page, they have a shot from a drone or something. You clearly see that there's ample room between the parties, the families that are at the beach. So he did this punitively. I mean, this was punishment. This was punishment for a Republican enclave in his beloved blue California, because they dared defy his order. They didn't get his authority. They used county authority, and there's no other explanation for it. White Claw. I mean, there's no other reason for it. Because keep in mind, Orange County, besides LA County, Orange County is one of the most populous counties in the state. They're surrounded by counties that have more deaths: San Bernardino, Riverside, San Diego, Los Angeles. It's the denser population in Orange County. But Gavin today said, oh, well, they have one of the highest infection rates. So fucking what? But he didn't say rates. He said numbers. So in a county with whatever it is, 6 million people or 4 million people, county or Modoc County or something like that, where there's 200,000 people, who cares about the raw number? The actual infection rate's very low. The death rate, the lethality rate in Orange County is very low. Orange County is not your problem county, but he shut down the beaches. So I'm going to be watching that this weekend. I hope people defy the order. Orange County has already come out and said that they're not going to enforce this regulation, and so it's not going to surprise me. I mean, you watch if Gavin that Wagner is pulling local authority on him. You watch, he'll send CHP down there. He'll send highway patrolmen off the highway to go and enforce beach law. Or he'll send, state park or whatever. So this is a really, really interesting power struggle that's going on. I didn't see this happening. I saw state government acting a lot more sensibly than they have. But Gavin has gotten a whiff of power. He's gotten a whiff of national publicity about how effective he's been. But you know what? With all the stay-at-home orders and the whole goddamn thing, California has a 5 per 100,000 death rate, 5 COVID-19 deaths per 100,000 citizens. Well, Florida and Texas didn't do shit. And in fact, Florida had, had spring breakers partying right up to the last second. Their death rate, Texas and Florida, is 5 and 6 per 100,000. So statistically a wash for states that didn't do anything. This will all, when the numbers all settle, I don't have allergies, but whenever I mow, I get snotty noses. So maybe I do have allergies. But I hope people go down to the beach in Orange County. Meanwhile, if they're afraid of, risking a ticket or whatever, they're going to go to Ventura County. And I would be normally right now, I don't work till Saturday night. And my daughter and I would be up in Morro Bay surfing. And I haven't gotten a confirmation yet about whether or not the beaches are open. I heard a rumor from our favorite surf shop that the beaches are being unenforced, which is very Morro Bay. So we'll see. Item number 2. This is really interesting because of the COVIDs. Look at all that cash. Because of all the COVIDs, the drug industry is really suffering from a real downturn, and a lot of it centers on Los Angeles. A lot of the world drug trade centers on Los Angeles and the inability to launder money. Okay, so stick with me on this. A couple of years ago, the Mexicans made it really, really difficult to deposit U.S. dollars directly into Mexican banks. They made it really hard for a bank to explain on a Monday why they got a sudden influx of $20 million cash over the weekend. They made it very, very hard. So what the drug cartels did was they came up with a workaround. And the workaround was that when the gangs, and here in California, you have the norteños and the sureños in the north and the south. And then, of course, MS-13 and, the rest of them. And they collect cash, for the meth, the fentanyl, or the pot or cocaine or whatever. Now, what do they do with the cash? Well, they used to literally bundle it up and drive it into Mexico. They can't do that anymore. So they go to brokers here in Southern California and they sell the American dollars for pesos. And then they take the pesos. And I know what you're saying. You're saying 2 bits, 4 bits, 6 bits of peso, all for fentanyl. Stand up and say so. Woo! So they take the pesos and then they purchase common retail goods as if you were stocking a Target or a Walmart or whatever in Mexico. And they have these storefronts. They have chains of stores in Mexico where they sell the goods that they buy in California. So they'll buy 100,000 of the new Air Jordan, right? And they'll buy 10,000 Gucci handbags or whatever. And then it'll be just normal supply chain. Then they get to the U.S. border and it's not drugs. It's a supply of Adidas that are going to go to a retailer in Mexico. And then that retailer in Mexico, can mark them up all he wants. And that makes up for the brokerage fee. When they transfer the dollars into pesos, they had to pay a premium to buy pesos, believe it or not. And so they take those retail goods, as electronics, shoes, whatever, and jewelry, take it to Mexico, sell it to Mexican citizens, and then that money is the drug cartel profit. And it works very, very well. Problem is, right now, it's really hard to get into Mexico from the U.S. The Mexicans are holding up a lot of shipments, so there is a lot of cash that is building up in Los Angeles, and the DEA and the Treasury are making all these raids of some of these little drug houses. It used to be that these middlemen got rid of the cash to their next guy up. Well, the problem is those guys, they don't like houses full of cash because they're going to get hit, right? I mean, I'm going to go rob them. And so, they're dispersing the money into their lower guys. No one likes that. And the DEA is doing all these raids around Los Angeles because the money has to back up. They can't move the goods into Mexico, so they can't buy the goods in the first place. So they don't transfer the pesos. So you go back to now they just have the cash from selling the drugs to your kids and Van Nuys. So there's that. There's another aspect. Hi, Lucille. Hi, Lucille. Hi, girl. I got to take Lucille out to the pool. Wyatt, go out. Go play with Lucille. Come on. He will. He listens to me. Hey, boy. Come on. The other deal is the money flight out of China. And you don't hear about this, but there has been a tremendous wealth flight out of China over the past 4 or 5 years for a couple reasons. Reason number one is America is a sure thing. And China is not a sure thing. So there's people who, they get to 20, 30, $40 million in net worth, and they want to buy property in the United States. They want to guarantee that if China goes sideways, they have somewhere to go and some of their wealth will be preserved there. Well, we have a visa program where if you fund an American business that has, I want to say 20 or more employees to the tune of $1 million or more, you get American residency and a fast track to citizenship. You literally can buy citizenship. A lot of advantage of that here in Southern California. There's another aspect of it where if you invest $500,000 into a business in a designated zone like Compton, South LA, Sylmar in a depressed area, you get the same thing, but for only $500,000. So in other words, you have to be prepared to say goodbye to that money because the business may not survive. But As long as for 1 year after your investment it's around, then you get permanent residence, and the whole thing. So that's that's a very common thing that Chinese have been doing. Once they have legal residence here, but you don't have to be a citizen to do this, but they buy property. Property in Southern California, as we know, very, very expensive, but it's an asset, isn't it? And when you buy property in Southern California and you have kids, you've done two things at once. You have moved a bunch of money into a place where it's not going to tank. Real estate in Southern California is always going to retain at least the value that you probably bought it at. And if it doesn't, it'll be back in a few years. But secondly, you now have a street address in California, and that means that your kids can be residents of California, and that they can attend a California state school with in-state tuition, which, as you know, $10,000, $15,000 difference per year. It's worth buying that house. Well, that's been held up as well. That what I'm saying is these two things: money laundering for drugs, and then the Chinese wealth flight out of China have been held up by all these COVIDs flying around. So anyway, it's an interesting article. It was in the LA Times today, and I found it interesting. Then, like I said last Thursday with Bill Handel on Tactical Thursday, Kim Jong-un is alive. He was alive last Thursday. He's alive now. There's no indications that there's going to be a transfer of power. The army's not mobilizing on the border. None of the normal shit that they would do, if that were the case, is happening. That doesn't mean that he's not incapacitated somewhere. His dad, Kim Jong-il, went through several bouts of sickness where he was incapacitated for several weeks. He had a stroke. This a few years before he died. They don't have a 26th Amendment, or is it 25th Amendment? They don't have a line of succession. There's not a vice dictator, in North Korea. And so if Kim Jong-un was incapacitated, we'd be seeing some sort of movement of security forces, because that's the North Korean number one fear, is that instability might breed, nervousness amongst the population, and gnashing of teeth, and the drinking of the White Claws and everything. But we're not seeing that. Well, okay. Here's why I bought that ammo. It's because California has a formula, and the formula is pass some outrageous gun law, and then sit back and wait for it to take 5 years to get to the Supreme Court. And that's where the ammo thing, if the Ninth Circuit Court doesn't hear it quickly, and the entire Ninth Circuit Court, en banc, as they say, which is now a majority conservative, Trump has flipped the Ninth Circuit Court. So the Ninth Circuit Court of 3 years ago is not the Ninth Circuit right now. So that's good news for the entire West Coast. But if they hear the California ammo ban, or pardon me, the California ammo law, that you have to undergo a background check for a legal product, they're going to overturn it. So that Judge Benitez, 1 week ago, it was, I want to say it was around 2 p.m. last Thursday, that he put an injunction on the ammo background check. And the next day, on Friday, 9:30 in the morning, I dropped, over $500 on ammo. And next thing you know, later that day, there was a stay on the injunction. I believe that's where we are right now, because now that that's been granted, we got to wait. So let's see, what is it? Anything else? I just want to make this quick and dirty and hit you up on the Gavin deal. And so that's the Gavin deal. And by the way, if you're If you're joining us late, I was parading this around earlier. My old-timey microphone. My old-timey KFI microphone. How you doing, everybody? So, well, Wyatt's back. He's tired. It's windy and hot. Actually, it's because it's windy. It's not that hot. If by the way, if you do want to see the poppies, this is probably the last week or two. So get on out to the Antelope Valley around the California Poppy Reserve, even though that's closed. The parking lot is closed and you can't pay and go in there. But as it turns out, the poppies don't care where they grow, and they grow all over the goddamn place. So there you go. It's not a genuine old-timey Sure. I would love to have one of those. This is an actual USB mic. Made to look like an old-timey mic. So there you go. I wish it was an old-timey KFI mic. The thing is that we can't process those. New mics do sound way better than the mics from the 70s. So let's see. Con Ryan, were you an intern at K-Rock? Was I nice to you? Probably. I didn't learn to be a dick in radio until relatively lately. Okay, so let's see. More North Korea on Saturday. Definitely more Gavin, because there's going to be more developments. But, this is melting down around us, that the pandemic has defined itself. Public health authorities are not behaving accordingly and acting sensible. They're contributing to cratering this economy here in California. It's fucking stupid. And we are at a point where, yes, indeed, we need to do the arithmetic, as Abraham Lincoln said, and balance everybody else's livelihood and our children's education with the lives of people who are vulnerable and are not part of the working economy. It's funny that there's some people who will say their counter argument will be, well, why don't you go tell the families of those people you're sacrificing? Well, I don't know. You're paying for roads. Why don't you go tell the families of people who shouldn't be on the highways or who, exited a ramp too fast because the sign fell down? We make that calculation that even though it's risky to drive on the roads, we've all agreed it's worth the several thousand deaths per year because the rest of us drive way better. So we're making that calculation every single day. So this is just another way of doing it. But here's the deal. We don't shut down the highways and businesses and ban cars from the road because of a few people die in accidents. So we'll have more on this tomorrow and Saturday. So there we go. Now everyone go back to the John and Ken show, and I will check in with you tomorrow. Tomorrow I will bring in a second screen and we'll do maps and stuff. How's that? Agreed? Can I get a second? I move that the vote be unanimous. The ayes have it. Okay. Thank you very much. Back to your busy Friday, everybody.